Good evening. We are again Chovot HaLevavot. I already changed my mind several times about how to do that. It's because the first time I teach this book, so I'm a little bit not sure how to do that. So we said we will concentrate in Shara Bitachon, which is the fourth gate, the first part of the book out of 10. We already finished with the introduction, and but then I thought that before starting the fourth gate, we should just see very shortly, very just the topics of the three first, not going through all of that, just what it's talking about, how we arrive to four, right? We start from the first. So it starts with Shara Yichud. Yichud, the unity of God. And according to him, it's maybe the most important mitzvah, to believe that there is one God, the base of everything else. So that I will read a little bit of what you wrote. The author says, after investigating after what is the most necessary of the cornerstones and fundamentals of our religion, we found that the wholehearted acceptance of the unity of God is the root and foundation of Judaism. So without that, there's no anything else. That this is a base, that everything is based on that, that there is only one God, and that he gave us a Torah and all the things that, but it starts from that, the fact that it's only one. It is the first of the gates of the Torah, and it differentiates between the believer and the heretic. It is a head and front of religious truth, and one who strays from it will not be able to perform religious deeds, and his faith will not endure. Right? So I would say there are two ways to stray from it. Stray, it's like going away from it. You can believe that there is more than one God, or you can believe there's no God at all whatsoever. So both of them are straying from the way of believing one God, and then if you don't have that, you don't have anything. So that's the reason he dedicated a full gate to what he called Shara Yichud, and he tried to prove the existence of God in a philosophical way. I already spoke about that. I mentioned that according to many rabbis, you shouldn't learn this chapter. It says that it will confuse you. It's not the Jewish way. It's not the Jewish way of arriving to faith. So many recommend just not to read it. Even there were some rabbis that prohibited learning this chapter. I don't think I'm not one to say anything about that, but I think, I mean, if you are to ask me, I would say that I don't think it's prohibition, but at least I would say it's not very useful today. I think that the kind of arguments, I tried to read it several times. I couldn't make it to the end, never. It's very, very complicated to understand, and also not very convincing, because it's based on philosophy of Middle Age, which is very, very not relevant today. And the way of argumentation, it's like the proofs are, it's called a medabrim, because it's like a literal, I don't know how to say, it's like literal games. Like you're saying something, then the conclusion is you should, there is endless, you can have both, or exist or not exist. If it exists, it's like mathematical way of argumentation. But again, it's not very convincing today. I mean, maybe if you can go to the deep of that, you would understand. But anyway, I don't think it's prohibited, but I don't see a lot of value of really investing in understanding every level. But there are some things that even without understanding the philosophical background are important. For example, in Analyze Shema Israel. And he said that Shema Israel has 10 parts, each one of them. He explained all the way. We are not going to say that. Just say that even though learning all the philosophical proofs maybe don't have so much value, it doesn't mean that there isn't any value of learning this. And he said that there is a mitzvah, not only that it's okay to know. There is a mitzvah to know that there is one God, and you have to invest in being able to prove that, to show that there is one God. And that's why he goes through all this way. Inside all this chapter, he make a very important definition of what we called the transient unity and the true unity. In order to be able to understand what does it mean God, so This is not from the book itself. I asked one of the AI that I'm using to summarize what he says, and it did it quite well. So it's important to understand that what we usually call one, it's not God. Usually we call one to something that it's not really one. It's composed of different things. Okay, so let's read. He calls that the transient unity. Why? Because nothing is stayed in the current situation forever. Even if you're talking about a human being who is alive, so he's a one person. After he will die, he will be separated to many, many, many parts, right? With the times, with the wounds, with the, right? So it won't stay one. So everything is only temporarily one, right? You have one book, but the one book has many, many pages in it. And in some point, they will separate from each other. So let's say, transient unity refers to anything in the physical world that we happen to call one, such as a single person, an army, or a star. This type of unity is only temporary, relative, and accidental, meaning it's not the essence of the thing, because it will be separate again. Because every physical object or group is actually made up of multiple parts, can be divided, and is constantly subject to change, decay, and destruction. In contrast, the true unity, Echad HaEmet, is a pure, absolute metaphysical concept that applies exclusively to God. Only God is a true one, because you cannot divide it. It will not be decayed or changed or destroyed in the future. It wasn't never in the past. So it's a unique one that is eternal, pure, and absolute one. It describes a perfect oneness that is not composed of parts, has no beginning or end, and is completely immune to change, physical limitation, or division. While everything else in the universe is only considered one by combination or coincidence, God alone is the absolute, unchanging, the eternal, true unity. So the consequence of that it's something that we cannot understand in our mind. Try to imagine like pure one that is not composed of nothing. It will be reduced to nothing, will be narrowed. You cannot even imagine it. So how can you describe God? You cannot describe God. How we describe God? We say He's merciful. We say He's big, He's great, He's clever. What does it mean? So actually, there's no any positive attributes that we can describe God with. Right? When we say He's wise, it's diminishing. It's not the real. So why we are using that? We are using that in the negative way. By saying He's wise, meaning that He's not stupid, meaning that He knows everything. When you say that He is big, meaning that He's not small, He's not weak. He's powerful, meaning He can do everything, but it's not that we can measure his power. Okay, that's what He says here. Human words describe limited physical things. Assigning them to God implies He's made of separate parts or has human limitations, which completely contradicts His perfect oneness. By the way, we also saw this kind of definition in the Kuzari when we learned the philosopher. Right? The philosopher presents God in a very similar way what we see here. Right? Negative theology, this is also by Rambam, by others, because His true essence is beyond human comprehension, defining what God is limits Him. We can only safely describe what He is not. For example, saying He is one simply means He is not multiple, but not the real essence of being one, or the real essence of being wise. Right? It's not something that we can describe God with. Silence is the highest praise. So the result of that the highest praise that we can say to God is not to say anything. Lecha dumia tehila, the verse says. To you, the silence is a big praise. We do praise Him all the time in the tefillah, but it's for us. It's not because we say, when we are saying God is that and that, we are really describing God. We are saying that in order to help us to connect to the concept of God. But it's not that we are describing Him by the words that we are saying. So the highest level of praising God is not saying anything. Human intellect and language are strictly limited. Trying to fully grasp or describe God's infinite essence will only overwhelm the mind and fail. Therefore, the wisest and most accurate praise is profound silence, acknowledging that His true greatness is utterly beyond words. Utterly beyond words. Okay, so this is basically what I wanted to show from the first part, the first gate, Shara Yichud, and it's 10 chapters. It's very long, right? So just get one of the essence of the chapter. So there is a mitzvah, obligation. This is why it's called Chovot HaLevavot, the duty of the heart, because it's in your heart. It's not something action that you're doing. We are saying Shema Israel to declare something that is inside. Okay, so you have to arrive as much as you can to the understanding and awareness of the uniqueness and unity of God. And this is a mitzvah deoraita of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And this is the work that you have to do in your mind to make it totally abstract from any kind of physical description, physical idea of God. Okay, this is a lifelong work. How do you say long life work? Whole life, huh? Lifelong work, right? So this, like I said before, these two boxes here, it's not the words of Rabbeinu Bachya, it's a summary of what he said. Now we say that even though you cannot understand God, the way to understand him as much as we can, or to connect to the concept of God, is by his actions. Meaning by learning and being aware to his actions, you are understanding a little bit what is God. He gives an example. He said, let's say someone throw a stone. So one person only heard the sound of the stone hitting the metal. Other person saw the stone moving. The third maybe felt it because it touched him. So each one of them met one aspect of the stone. All of them are familiar with the concept of stone in some way. And all of them can conclude that someone threw the stone because the stone doesn't move for itself. So by connecting to the different aspect with the senses of the stone, we are connecting to the one who throws the stone. We are in some kind of understanding of the person who throws the stone, one understanding his existence. So you say understanding the existence of God would be through being aware of his actions. How would we be aware of his actions? We learn the world around us. So according to him, there is a mitzvah to learn biology, physics, everything that describes the world, and that we can understand the wisdom of God through the world. And specifically, he says through human being, understanding the wondrous creation that it's human being is a mitzvah of knowing God, because you know God through his actions. So that he give two examples. The first example I mentioned with the stone. The second example, not example, metaphors. The second metaphors is trying to understand the sun. And here we add some point more. It's very important. If you try to look directly on the sun, you will burn your eyes. You won't see anything. That instantly that you're looking on the most brilliant, light, enlightening object, and you see dark. If you look directly on the sun, I don't know if you tried any time, to look directly on the sun, you see dark. I mean, I don't know the physical explanation for that. But the light is so strong that it makes you blind. This is the same as trying to look on God itself. And try to understand God itself will burn your mind. So what you do, how can you be aware of the existence of the sun? You feel it's it. You see the light that it's creating. You see the shadows and things. So you are aware of the existence of sun through the consequence of its existence. And that's what he said also by learning about the world. That's it's called Shar Abchina. Shar Abchina, the translation, examination, the gate of examination, meaning by examining the world around us, we are understanding the uniqueness of God or the wisdom of God. So this is the second gate, and he explained what we have to investigate, how to have to investigate, and is trying to bring proof that it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to learn about the world. So the second illustration or metaphor will demonstrate that the spiritual matters, once we are convinced of their existence, it is not proper to investigate the nature, because this approach only ruins our intellect. So he says the spiritual matters, meaning not only God itself, also trying to understand soul. What does it mean that I have soul? What is my soul? I can understand emotions. I can understand desires. I can understand will. all that, the spiritual part of human being. But what is the soul itself? What is the life itself? It's really hard to contemplate and try to understand because it's impossible to understand. We know it exists. We know we have soul, right? But to understand that, to try to contemplate of the understanding of the real essence of the soul, it's impossible. It's say not only it's impossible, it will ruin your intellect, like looking on the sun. And the same about God itself. If we try to understand God itself, himself, herself, itself, it's going to be damageful. You say damageful?
Damaging.
Damaging. Right. Sometimes I invent words, but it's okay. So the Kabbalah also, it's not understanding God itself, it's understanding the appearance of God through the sphirot, through the different aspects, Pchinot. Okay, so let's see is metaphor. So this is like one who try to understand the sun for observing its light, radiance, shine, and its power to dissipate darkness. If he accepts its existence, he will benefit from it, use its light, and attain all that he seeks from it. But one who strives to study its roundness and focuses his eyes to stare at it, his eyes will dim, and eventually the sight will be lost, and will not benefit from the sun. The same thing will happen to us if we study the existence of the Creator from the evidence of his signs in this creation, meaning the world itself, the wisdom manifested in them, his power showing in all his creation. So if we learn all of that, we will think and we will understand his nature, some of it, something of it, right? Then our minds will be illuminated with the knowledge of him, and we will attain all that it's possible for us to attain. As written, I am the Lord, your God, who teaches you for your benefit, who leads you by the way that you should go. But if we exert our minds to understand the matter of his glorious essence, and to try to liken or represent him in our minds, we will diminish our intellect and understanding, and we will not grasp even what was known to us, meaning we will destroy what we already know about him, as would happen to our eyes if we stared at the sun. We must be careful in this matter and remember it when we investigate on the matter of the existence of God. So this is the second gate. The second part of the book is Sha'ar HaBchina, the examination of the evidence of the existence of God through his actions. His action is the world of nature, animals, plants, minerals, everything that exists in the world, and human being, especially human being, is part of nature, but above the nature, and then also the spiritual part of human being. So all of that, by learning that deeply, profoundly, we will be aware of the wisdom of God, and we will be aware of his existence. Okay, so this is the second part of the book. Now, after learning about his wisdom, you will also be aware of his kindness, how kind he is to give us life and to give us all the benefits of the existence of our existence in the world. And that will lead us to the third part of the book, which is Sha'ar Avodat Elokim, the service of God. So that's what let's see in his words. The author says, since we began in the previous treatise with the various ways in which the unity of God can be demonstrated so that it shall be all heartily acknowledged, and we found that the examination of the wisdom manifested in the universe is the nearest way to clarify his existence and the clearest path to know his reality. So these are the two first chapters, right? First of all, understanding his unity, and second, understanding that we can be aware of his existence by learning of his wisdom through the creation. Therefore, we deem it our duty to deal with this theme so that to each treatise, the one most nearly resembling it should be joined, and each topic should be followed by the most appropriate topic. This being among the subjects which we have to deal with in regard to the Almighty's service, the purpose for which we were created, as the wise man said, and God has so made it that men should fear before him. Oh, I think that I made it. No, it's not what, is that what I said before? That's what I said before, right? Okay. What is the examination? Contemplating the marks of the creator wisdom manifested in the created things and evaluating these marks according to one's mental capacity. Okay, all that we saw, right? Now we are going to the third one. That's what I just said. Having in the previous treatises expounded the obligation of wholeheartedly acknowledging the unity of God and the obligation of examining the various modes of his benefits to mankind, we have next to indicate what a human being conduct should be once the foregoing has become clear to him, and that is to assume the obligation of the service of God, as a reason would require from a beneficiary to his benefactor. Okay, so that's how we arrive to the third gate, which is the service of God. After understanding his existence and his kindness, we should understand that we must serve him, have the service of God. And he explained in that book, it starts in many times, this is his method. It starts with human beings and then goes to God. He says there are 7 reasons why you will be, why you should serve other people. Why would you be thankful to other people? Because they gave you, because they did that for you, etc. So he gives that, it's a very long chapter when he says, what would be the reason that we must be thankful to other people? And then he says, all that things, much more you should be grateful to God, right? And express this gratefulness through the worship of God, through the service of God. Okay, so this is the third chapter, which is the obligation to serve God after knowing his existence and his kindness. So after that, he arrived to the Sha'ar HaBitachon, which was the purpose of all what we are doing, right? To arrive to Sha'ar HaBitachon. And why is it after Avodat Elokim? What is Bitachon? Bitachon is trust in God. How can we understand trust in God? So there are different levels. One way, we will talk about that later a bit more, but one is, I sure that Hashem will bring good things to me. I'm sure that if someone, Chas v'Shalom, is sick, I sure he will cure him. I trust him to cure the person. I trust him to bring me parnasa. I trust him to... So this is one way of trusting God. And actually, some say this is the definition of bitachon. Knowing that Hashem will give you good. So how comes that greatest tzaddikim also suffer? Well, it's questions that we are going to have to answer. But some say that bitachon is being trust God 100% that everything is going to be okay. Others say, no, it's not necessarily that everything is going to be okay, that everything that should happen, happen. This is a different thing. Hashem always do what is best for you, not what you want, what is best for you. So that may include also bad things as you see them. But anyway, this is bitachon. This is the definition of bitachon generally. But the question is, why it's after service of God? So, I mean, we will see about bitachon a little bit more about the definition, but why we understand that until now it's quite reasonable, the order, right? The order is believing in God and then understanding his kindness and then serving him. Why after that is the bitachon? And he says here, and it's said in other places, that the most important thing in service of God is to have bitachon. The most important thing in service, without bitachon, it's really hard to really serve God. And he will explain why it is like that. But let's first say, the author says, since our previous treatise, what is treatise? Chapter, article? Yeah. Treatise, I thought it's like the whole book. Or it can be part of the book. Okay, we call that here gate, the Sha'ar. So the author says, since our previous treatise dealt with the duty to assume the service of God, I deemed proper to follow it with what is more necessary than all other things for one who serves God, placing one's trust in him for all matters. So he says the most important things to the service of God is to trust God. If you don't trust God, it will be very hard to you to serve him properly. Okay? The reason being the great benefits that this yields both in religious and in secular matters. So this is what we are going to see next. But this is the reason that it says that this is come after, because it's a more important thing. Now, I will explain a little bit, so I'm not going to enter to all the definitions of the bitachon right now. I'm just going to say another point. Maybe the most important part of Sha'ar bitachon is to teach you to live with calm, not to be stressful, not to stressed, not to live in tension. And I just want to say a little story. Many years ago, when my mother did her master degree, she had to summarize a book in English. So the mission was to summarize all book. So she's a nurse. It was related to nursing, to the health, and the topic of the book was the influence of pressure and tension of the health. So it was all book of 15. So she asked me to help her to summarize this book. It was interesting to see how deadly is tension. They show that any kind of illnesses, any kind of problems in the body, in the mind, in the soul, comes from tension. And they really, it was really impressive to see how it's affected with the time. It's like the silence killer. All the things that we are so stressful about them. And so bitachon is basically the opposite of that. Living, it doesn't mean not to have worried or concerns. It doesn't mean not to make effort to resolve your problems and to make the best you can in order to achieve things. But it means that you are doing everything with calm. You are not stressed about the results. You are stressed about the process to make your best. But what's come out from your efforts, it's not always or not necessarily up to you. And accepting that, the result would always be according to the will of God. Meaning, if I am okay with myself, if I know with myself that I did the best I can, I cannot be angry about myself. I cannot be stressed. I cannot be angry about the result, because if I did the best I can, so the result is the will of God. Maybe I should do better. Okay, I try to do better. Maybe I should make more effort. I think more. Maybe I should think more. But everything coming with an understanding that you are not alone in the world. And the thing that's happening, it's not only up to you. And you think that someone that lives with that understanding, it's something that you should educate yourself for. Another little story from many years ago. I remember that during high school, I was always stressed about tests and exams. It's not that I was a bad student. I was quite a good student, but still, always I have this subject. I have problems. I must do 5 points in math, and then I'm not good enough. I have to do. Oh, I must. Well, what's going to happen with that? It's my bagrut going to be the bagrut is the final exam. I was always stressed about the results, and I remember after doing the last exam, and suddenly I felt I'm totally free, nothing to worry about. I remember it was like a few days, a month or so, that I don't have to do anything. I don't have any obligations. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything is okay, organized. So it was such a feeling of freedom, liberty. It's not bitachon, because it's what I'm saying now. It's like feeling free. It's something also bad. It's like being lazy. If you don't have missions, if you don't feel that you have to do something, your life is useless, right? You don't use in your life. So it's not, but the fact that I didn't have to worry about anything, I remember it was so liberating. I don't have to worry. I don't have to be worried about anything. I was going to Shiva in a month or so. I finished all my exams. Nothing is on my table, right? I'm totally free. So the freedom, but it's more about the freedom, but I didn't have to worry about anything. So this is what we have to feel. It's some meaning we have a lot of things to do. We had a lot of missions. We have a lot of things that we must accomplish and do and create and make a progress in the world for ourselves, for the people around us, but not worried about things, not have this stress, this concern that killing people. So how you arrive to that? You can just be apathic to everything, which is the wrong way, or if you are developing all we said until now, the existence of God, as that is in this kindness, you are can be like calm the things that are under control. It's like going to a war, but in a simulator. Meaning that you know this simulator that you are playing. You know that you're not going to die. It's only a simulator, right? I read a book. It's a science fiction that someone was very, very has superpowers or something like that, and they trained him in a special mission. And he was like, I don't remember the name of the book. It was many, many years ago. And then they didn't tell him, but it was real. So it was like playing in a simulator with plants and they didn't tell him, but it wasn't simulator. It was he was really controlling the airplanes and the people. He sent people to die, but he didn't care because he didn't know it's real, and that's how he won in the end. So by eliminating the stress of being worried about the result, so many depends on me. All the world depends on my shoulders against the aliens that were fighting against the humans or whatever, right? So it's the same about life in some meaning. If you have bitachon, meaning if you believe in God, that the result always depends on Him. So you are doing your best, but you are in a simulator because what should happen will happen, and the good things that should happen will happen. You don't have to worry about the result. You are doing the best you can with all the calmness in the world. So this is the bitachon that he is describing, and it's a little bit similar to Stoicism. It's some streams in the Islam are very similar to that, and but it's in a very Jewish one. All what is, of course, let's say there is influences, but it's a very Jewish because it brings verses and it show divrei chachamim, words of chachamim, etc. So all is based on Judaism in a way that. It teaches you how to live correctly. I'm saying it teaching you doesn't mean that I'm there. I'm totally not there. I'm too worried, too concerned about too many things, right? But it's a process of education that you have to go through. Educate yourself to live with this level of trust in God, right? That you're doing the best, but don't worry. Be happy, right? Be happy about everything that's happening. So this is maybe and explain why it's the most important things for serving God. Because it's liberate you from any kind of pressure of humans, pressure of parnasa, pressure of other. Because if you trust God, you know that you don't have to worry about what people say about you, what people will do to you, what's happened to you, right? Because you're in good hands. There's someone keeping you all the time. So it's educating yourself to live with this concept. It's something that can really, really change your life, the way you are living and your health, your mental health, your physical health, everything. So without Hashem, we're going to see that next time.